Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 10. Kamasya na indriya pritihi labha jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jigyasa na artaha yacha iha karmabhihi kamasyanendriya pritir labho jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jignasa narto yascheha karmabhi kamasyanendriya pritir labho jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jignasa narto yascheha karmabhi kamasyanendriya pritir labho jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jignasa narto yascheha karmabhi kamasyanendriya pritir labho jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jignasa nato yascheha karmabhi kamasyanendriya pritir labho jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jignasa nato yascheha karmabhi kamasyanendriya pritir
labho jiveta yavata
jivasya tattva jigyasa nato yascheha karmabhi kamasyanendriya pritir labho jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jignasa narto yascheha karmabhi
kamasyanendriya
pritir
labho jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jignasa narto yascheha karmabhi kamasya of desires na not indriya senses priti satisfaction labha gain jiveta self preservation yavata so much so jivasya of the living being tattva the absolute truth jignasa inquiries na not artha end yacha iha whatsoever else karmabhi by occupational activities Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Life's desires should never be directed toward sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's works. Purport. The completely bewildered material civilization is wrongly directed towards the fulfillment of desires in sense gratification. In such civilization, in all spheres of life, the ultimate end is sense gratification. In politics, social service, altruism, philanthropy, and ultimately in religion or even in salvation, the very same tint of sense gratification is ever increasingly prominent. In the political field, the leaders of men fight with one another to fulfill their personal sense gratification. The voters adore the so-called leaders only when they promise sense gratification. As soon as the voters are dissatisfied in their own sense gratification, they dethrone the leaders. The leaders must always disappoint the voters by not satisfying their senses. The same is applicable in all other fields. No one is serious about the problems of life. Even those who are on the path of salvation desire to become one with the absolute truth and desire to commit spiritual suicide for sense gratification. But the Bhagavatam says that one should not live for sense gratification. One should satisfy the senses only in as much as required for self-preservation and not for sense gratification. Because the body is made of senses, which also require a certain amount of satisfaction, there are regulative directions for satisfaction of such senses. But the senses are not meant for unrestricted enjoyment. For example, marriage or the combination of a man with a woman is necessary for progeny, but it's not meant for sense enjoyment. In the absence of voluntary restraint, there is propaganda for family planning. But foolish men do not know that family planning is automatically executed as soon as there is search after the absolute truth. Seekers of the absolute truth are never lured by unnecessary engagements in sense gratification, because the serious students seeking the absolute truth are always overwhelmed with the work of researching the truth. In every sphere of life, therefore, the ultimate end must be seeking after the absolute truth, and that sort of engagement will make one happy. Hence, he will be less engaged in varieties of sense gratification. And what that absolute truth is explained as follows. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaura Vani Prachadine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Bhaschatya Deshatadine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasani Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Kamasa Nendriya Priti Labho Jivata Yavata Jivasa Tattva Jigyasa Narto Yascheha Karma Bhi. Life's desires should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation. Since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth, nothing else should be the goal of one's works. This verse is speaking about how to direct our life. Everyone has a plan, has their own plan. Some have a plan that, okay, we'll build a house, or I have to start my own business, or I have to win the Olympics, I have to settle the children. Everyone has different aims. Everyone has a direction in life. But according to our consciousness, we live in this world trying to do different activities and having different goals. But everyone has a goal. Unless someone is extremely driven by senses, then his aim is just to enjoy and can't achieve much materially. But people understand, they have that much understanding that I have to enjoy later, let me sacrifice now, make a plan, and materially I can enjoy later. So even materialists have a plan. They have a plan to enjoy. Mostly, the goal people have is for some materialistic result, to get some result, some fruit of activity, by which they'll get some happiness. But very often, whatever they work hard and endeavor for, they don't become happy when they get it. Then they become confused. So they have other goals, and that goes on and on and on. Sometimes someone has a very big goal in life, materially, to achieve something. And then if they struggle so hard and then they attain that, then they don't get fulfillment, then they become very disturbed. My whole life went. What did I do? I'm not so happy. This is what I thought life is. So they keep seeking. They keep seeking because they want to get fulfillment, peace in life. So they are looking for some activity that they can do to get a result which will satisfy them. But they don't have knowledge about satisfaction. They don't have knowledge about life. If someone is fortunate, they come in contact with Srimad Bhagavatam. Because even in the Vedas, they don't directly speak about what should be the ultimate goal of life. It's not written here. It's very clear in this verse. Such a benediction is this. Srimad Bhagavatam is clearly delineating the truth as Vyasadeva intended, that at least one Shastra should be very clear. So right in the beginning of this work, it's laying down the goal of life. And speaking about the goal, who will speak about goal of life? No one will speak about it. Mostly because people don't know what it is and they don't know what to choose. So they just don't speak about it at all. Very few people in Kali Yuga, especially, endeavor for some higher purpose. Because most people's consciousness is so low, they cannot think beyond their body or their family's bodies, or political party, or nation's bodies. If we see where this Bhagavatam was spoken, in which situation, when Suta Goswami was narrating it, there was an assembly of sages who came to a place, Naimisharanya. And why did they come to Naimisharanya? Because Naimisharanya is such a place that whatever welfare activities we do impacts the whole creation. So they came there with the aim for benefiting the whole creation, benefiting the human society and everyone else, because Kali Yuga had come. Well, it's not Kali Yuga for the whole creation, for our planet. So to benefit them, these people were speaking, they were doing different yagyas, which were not working. So then they asked Suta Goswami, can you tell us? But the point is that they had come there to benefit not themselves, to benefit others. This is a big thing. Even that is a big thing nowadays, that people aren't having that kind of, so that selfish, just concerned with the self. So what is that endeavor that I can do that will be pleasing to me, or my family, or my country? So this is a kripana. They have been given the highest benediction of this material body. They don't want to use it for the absolute truth, just for their own sense gratification. So having not realized any higher purpose, their aim is simply, my goal, my desire to be directed for sense gratification. So in this purport, it's mentioned, the opening sentence is very clear what Bhagavad says about Bhagavad. If we say the Bhagavad, we have the verses and the purport. And if the commentator is a Bhagavad himself, a Mahabhagavat, then his purports will be in line with the shlokas, which is clear delineation of absolute truth, and very clear. We have to know what is it, what it is not. So here, the opening sentence of this purport, the completely bewildered material civilization, not half bewildered, not little off, not little bit, something has to be corrected, completely bewildered, it's gone case, basically, gone case. This material civilization is wrongly directed. Why? Fulfillment of desires, this is their aim. This is not the aim of civilization. So we see that Bhagavatam is 18,000 verses. We just reached chapter 2 of first canto, text 10, and it's been very clearly explained that seekers of absolute truth can not bother to seek it within this civilization of materialistic writers, intellectuals, philosophers, etc. There is no point. Why? Because in such a civilization, in all spheres of life, the ultimate end is sense gratification. They're not going to tell you they're not going to give some higher goal. The goal is directed to enjoyment. That's the goal. There's no higher purpose. In politics, social service, altruism, philanthropy, and we can extend it here, I'll say also in philosophy, in religion, they said that? No. Everything is directed to sense gratification, how to enjoy. That is the direction given in this civilization, because it's misdirected, it's bewildered. Bewildered means someone is not in a normal condition, someone is not able to function properly. Become bewildered when, for example, we take alcohol, someone takes some intoxication, they become bewildered. At that point, you cannot think properly, then it doesn't make sense to ask him anything. You can say, oh, this person is intoxicated, so don't ask anything. Don't ask where is the direction for that, or what time is the bar closing, whatever. We don't ask the person who's bewildered. So, this civilization is bewildered. They so much attracted to the material energy, the Shakti, not the Shaktiman, not the creator. So they cannot give Gyan, they cannot give knowledge. It's very clear here. The Bhagavatam is laying the foundation that we want to get higher goal in life and direct our desires towards a higher goal. So we have to look beyond this materialistic civilization. So people who are bewildered, they're not able to give any knowledge because they're in a state which is not normal. The normal state of a human being is to be connected to Krishna and to live life on basis of Shastra, not whimsically. And so, people who are not doing that, this civilization, practically the whole world, are not on a normal consciousness. They are not. So, they cannot give Gyan. Vedanta Sutra explains Brahma Jigyasa, Atato Brahm Jigyasa, inquire into Brahman, Brahm. So Brahm means spiritual, and that it says in Upanishad, Sarvam Kal Vidam Brahm. Actually, that Brahma is all pervading. The spiritual touch is there in the whole material creation. It's there, it's all pervading, and one has to inquire into the absolute truth, Brahm. Inquire characteristics of what is this spiritual energy. This is at a lower level. Gyanis will look at Brahma. So they'll see what is the nature of this spiritual energy, because they can understand that we are so much enamored with this material world, but someone who has higher knowledge, Gyan, they'll understand, no, this material world is functioning behind some superior spiritual power. How can matter move itself? Okay, good. So they begin to inquire into the nature and characteristics of that Brahman, that spiritual energy. And the understanding is it's everywhere. Sarvam Kal Vidam Brahma. So they begin to search. That's their goal. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains about spiritual energy, spirit soul, first of all, we who are Brahman, and also about, in chapter 2, he explains about bhakti in a summary. It's a summary of the whole work of Bhagavad Gita. So, at the end he says, Esha Brahmi Sthiti Partha. This is the spiritual position, spiritual consciousness. Esha Brahmi Sthiti Partha Naivyam Prapya Vimuhyati. Once we get that, then we are not bewildered. Then we have a clear idea of what is illusion, what is not, where to direct our life, how to direct our life. One has to come on the Brahma Sthiti, because then we are not bewildered. And if someone is on that platform, then we can ask them, what is the goal of life? We cannot ask a PhD degree person, IIT, we cannot ask them, they are bewildered. We cannot ask anybody whose basis of life is not based on the Brahman, the spiritual energy. His basis of life is this material energy. He's also part of the problem. They cannot give it, that goal. So that life's direction should be gotten from someone who is in the Brahmisthiti. And in the end of chapter 2, this is explained, because that's the summary is given of the Bhagavad Gita. And the end, Krishna says, this is the spiritual situation. These are the verses what someone should know and should understand. When Arjuna heard, he was hearing Bhagavad Gita, when he heard Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita, which is supposed to be essence of the Gita, the essence of the knowledge of Gita, what was his conclusion after hearing it? Param Brahm, Param Dhama, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan. He said, Krishna, I conclude you are the Param Brahm. It's my conclusion from this. We speak about Brahm. Brahm is we are also Brahman. We are spiritual. Spiritual touch is everywhere. But the Para-Brahman, supreme source of the Brahman, the shelter of the Brahman, Para-Brahman, Arjuna concluded, Krishna, that's you. Because he said, Krishna says, Aham Sarvasya, everything is emanating from me. I am the basis of everything. So Arjuna understood. He said, okay, Param Brahm, Param Dhama, you are the supreme abode. Param Dhama, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan, you are the supreme pure. Pure in the sense, no tinge of materialistic energy. Of course, material energy is part of Krishna. But his existence is Shuddha Sattva. Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabditam. Shuddha Sattva means he's not at all influenced by matter. And there's no one as on his level, on that level of purity. Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adi Devam Ajam Vibhum. You are the eternal, transcendental, original personality of Godhead. This was Arjuna's conclusion. So Vedanta Sutra says we should be on the same path of what Arjuna is seeking. He realized, we are supposed to realize the Brahman. Our efforts now should be directed to realize this material world, this body is running on a spiritual principle. What is it? What is the characteristic of it? What is the nature? What is God? This should be the goal. The Bhagavatam is saying clearly what our goal should be in this life. We are born, we have two hands, eyes, and senses, intelligence. How shall we engage? What shall we do now? What shall we do? Engage in seeking the absolute truth. That's what we should do. This is the message of Bhagavatam from the beginning. From the beginning. This is what we should do. There is no black or white. There's no gray area. It's black or white. Be situated in Brahman. Be situated in the spiritual energy. Inquire into Krishna. Realize Krishna. It's not easy to, having been born in a material world, being in a material civilization, having a material body, and thinking now I'll become spiritualized. How will we do it? And now we're not just me, us. What about us? Okay, what about our family? What about our country? What about our society? What about the human race? Human race has to become, they have to become Bhagavata, they have to become transcendental, spiritualist. How will they do that? Srimad Bhagavatam gives this. Prabhupada says in the beginning, in the introduction, preface, that we have made rapid progress on all fields in this material civilization, but there's a pinprick. What is the meaning of that analogy? Sometimes have you noticed that you're sitting comfortably on a sofa or chair, there's a pin. So you can't really be comfortable. You be careful how I sit, I'll sit. Then the pin is there, then move this way. Even when we're sitting down, be careful. So you're not really comfortable. So in this material world that we are here, everything seems okay, advancement, science, something is wrong. What is it? Cannot put our finger. Something is wrong. What is wrong? Something is missing. Some big thing is missing. Krishna basically is missing. So how are you going to change the civilization and ourselves, our way of thinking? And civilization means social, political, economic, everything should be changed and transformed and revolutionized. How are you going to do that? So Srimad Bhagavatam, that's how it's going to happen. Through the Bhagavat, everyone has to become Bhagavat. And the Bhagavad Dharma has to be propagated. It should be done. Srila Prabhupada worked. It may take time. It will be one at a time, one slow and sure steps. But this has to happen. That is the goal. The human civilization is meant to be based on this Bhagavad Dharma. People are meant to be living their lives according to this, and our whole political and every aspect of life should be based on this aspect. One has to realize Brahman. It's not enough just to know. Realize means we have to connect and live accordingly. When we say, for example, that Varnashram Dharma, Daivi Varnashram, in Varnashram it's like some sort of machine, that everything is functioning in the society perfectly because everyone is doing their job properly. And so Krishna wants that the society should function properly because the jivas have come here to get purified. And if that purification is not happening, then he'll come again to reset it. So anybody who acts according to what Krishna's desire is, he'll also be very dear to Krishna. And we as Bhagavatas, that's what we're meant to do. So the Varnashram Dharma is supposed to be like a machine that's working, and it should work properly. Otherwise, if a machine is not working, then the task cannot be done. The task is purification of the human race. So Daivi Varnashram, Varnashram is there. Daivi Varnashram means that the whole purpose should be satisfaction of Krishna. The consciousness of everyone should be that I am doing my role as a potterer because Krishna has put me in this position and I'm doing it. The consciousness of the king, the Kshatriya king, Rajarshi, is that I am here because of Krishna wanted me. And my role in this machine is I am supposed to do my duty. In this way, everyone does their duty for Krishna. So that revolution has to come because at the present moment, completely bewildered materialistic civilization, people are not thinking about Krishna. They're thinking how to satisfy themselves. And there is no satisfaction then. No question. Because we are not satisfied, there's so many problems. If you are satisfied, there won't be any problem, but there's so many problems. In Satyayug, there was no Varnashram, there was no city, there was no village because everyone was serving Krishna and they were satisfied to just live in the city, in the forest and eat herbs and roots. So at that level of satisfaction, then one can, all material desires decrease, everything decreases. But now we are not at that level. We have we have material desires. So here in the purport it's written that the body is made of senses. They require some amount of satisfaction. But there are regulator principles to govern that. And one who veers fully into sense gratification, things will go wrong. First of all, every one of us has given that karma, how much sense gratification we are allowed. And if you go a little more, you get a problem. Indigestion. You're allowed to eat this much. Or in any other aspect. Prabhupada here gives example of marriage. He says, okay, that combination of man and woman is necessary for progeny, but not for sense gratification. Here, this topic has come up because bewildered civilization, based on sense gratification, principally it will be sex desire, satisfaction. So here it says that the man and the woman is required for progeny, not for sense gratification. Now, if we say something like this in a general class, half people will get up. Fanatics. Therefore, Bhagavatam is not spoken to them. In the absence of voluntary restraint, there is propaganda for family planning, that voluntarily restrain. No, someone doesn't do that. Okay, then you have to start family planning and other artificial ways to control. But it's mentioned here that if someone simply begins on the path of self-realization, automatically there's family planning. Because here in the purpose it's explained that the pursuit of the absolute truth is completely engaging. If one says, okay, I'm going to seek after absolute truth, it's a full engagement. Full engagement. You do not have time for other things. No one will have time for other things, basically. It's a complete engagement. And so that's what, automatically everything is taken care. There's no need for artificial other systems. Teaching kids in the school and all these things. There's no need. Just teach about God. And once they come onto that, it's a higher taste. It's a higher rasa. So if one is very fortunate, living in this life, trying to seek that satisfaction through different materialistic endeavors and goals, if we're fortunate, we come across this in Bhagavad, the Bhagavad book, Bhagavad person, Bhagavad devotee, society, then at that point we realize the supreme goal should be, because as a jiva we always look for the best thing for us, the best, most happiness. Where will I live? What will I do? Where will I get the most happiness? Where will I get the most benefit? So in so many words, Bhagavatam explains, the greatest benefit is attaining devotional service to Krishna. That's the greatest benefit we can get. Greatest happiness is engaging in the service of the servants of the servants of the servants of the servants of Krishna. Greatest happiness, greatest bliss. This is explained. So if we're fortunate, we get that. And then we realize, kamasa nendriya priti, the goal of life is not sense gratification. Instead, labho jivata yavata. One should seek self-preservation. That means keep good health, keep, balance, eating, sleeping, be in good mental health, be in good condition. Why? Jivasa tattva jigyasa, to inquire into the absolute truth with full mental, physical engagement, full intellectual capability. We have to inquire into the absolute truth. Jivasa tattva jigyasa, seek into understand the absolute truth. Tat, that. Tattva, thatness, truth. That's what we have to do. So we'll do that, we'll do other things also. Nartha yascheha karmabhi. There should be no other goal. That's the only goal. So that should reflect in our society, in the family, in the economic system, sense gratification, simple economy system. No complicated system, working hard for some paper. Then I give the paper to that guy, then that he'll give me something, sack of rice in that building, supermarket. Complicated thing. Go and plant a seed yourself. Simple economic system, centered on God. Always remember God. That if you don't, then no rain. Rain won't come. Then automatically realize, oh, there is a God, I have to serve Him. So economic system based on self-realization, not disconnected. So disconnected that we are thinking food is coming from some supermarket. And we reach sometime a ridiculous situation. There's so much rain, good land, but no rice. No rice. No rice in the market. Recently, India banned rice exports. All over the world, everyone is rushing to stores because one of the biggest exporters of rice. Everyone is rushing to the stores and stock up on rice. Why? India's banned rice. What will we do? What will you do? Plant the rice. Plant the rice. You have the rice, it's there. No, but they have artificial economy based on sense gratification, extreme sense gratification. There are places like Japan, everything is concrete. And you can just go from one city to another and go miles and kilometers, you will not see trees and garden. Well, you can't blame them. Their whole population, which is more than America, is in a small area, 1/20th of America. So that's, extreme cases of seeking sense gratification and creating a very difficult material situation for yourself. So Srimad Bhagavatam is giving the way how we can replace all material desires with spiritual desires and set up everything properly. Na arthayascheha karmabhi. There's no other goal in life. What's the purpose of eyes? To read Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. Ears? To hear that. What's the purpose of our hands? To serve Krishna and clean, as Ambarish Maharaj directed all his senses and all his faculties connected to Krishna. So that's the goal. And Bhagavatam establishes in the beginning, this is the goal, this is what we're going to do. No other Shastra says that, as far as I know. Bhagavad Gita makes a mention, Bhagavad Gita is Bhagavatam. It says, search for the absolute truth in chapter 13. What is knowledge? Who remember Sanskrit for that? Who remembers that part? Absolute truth, search for knowledge. That is, search for the absolute truth. Nityatvam. Yeah, that's the one. Adhyatma Jnanam. Search for the absolute truth. This is knowledge, Bhagavad Gita says. So expanded here in Bhagavad Gita, in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. Question? Yes?
So, this information is applicable for our present world.
Yes.
But the same God has made heaven planets. These problems are not at all there. But why the Bhagavatam is not directing there? But instead asking us to go beyond.
Okay. Why? Okay, I understand. Okay. In the heavenly planets, there is very less suffering. So why isn't Bhagavatam telling us to go there? Well, that is a temporary solution, because Shine Punya Martya Lokam Vishanti. Bhagavad Gita says in chapter 9, when your punya finishes, you will come back down. Tetam Bhuktva Swarga Lokam Vishalam. That those who want, they'll go to Swarga Lok and enjoy Vishalam. Enjoy in a big way, very nicely. Sarukam Vishalam, Shine Punya Martya Lokam Vishanti. But when their credit finishes, they'll come back here to Martya Loka, place of death. So Bhagavatam is making a complete solution. Yeah, and actually, majority of Vedas direct us to Swarga. Majority of, if you look, Vedic texts speak about how to drink Soma Rasa, how to go to the Nanda Kanana gardens, but that's not that's not the final solution, and that is not the part of dharma. Actually, dharma means that engaging in our eternal occupation of Sanatana Dharma, of serving the absolute truth. So that is the actual religion. So Bhagavad is giving the actual religion. Dharma projita kaitava, the cheating religion of giving some enjoyment with the religion, that is rejected. Dharma projita kaitava atra. That's the reason Bhagavatam is not directing to heavenly planets. Even though, and one more thing, actually heavenly planets is not free from suffering. There is birth, death, old age, disease on a less scale. And in one lecture, Srila Prabhupada mentions that old age comes just within few minutes, then death follows, very fast. And they're also disturbed. That, ete cham shakala apamsa, Krishnastu Bhagwan Swayam, then Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridyanti Yuge Yuge. That he's always Indrari Vyakulam Lokam. He's always assisting Indra, in other words, the Suras, the Devas, when they're taken over by the Asuras. So there also there's a problem. Asuras disturbed. Yeah.
So you mentioned that now rice export will stop from India, so the foreign countries, they are struggling. And they should plant their own rice. So, but they can give the reasoning that the climate is not suitable and the soil and all these factors. So what should they do?
What should they do? Eat what you can. Plant wheat. Actually, every place, if you see, traditionally, according to their psychophysical nature, climate, they eat certain foods. So, actually, in America, it's full of wheat. They have wheat fields. Huge amount of wheat they have. Well, but people just think, I want to have rice. I want to eat mango, imported from Brazil. Or you pay a little more, import from India, and then put in some pesticide, or some chemical, or it will go bad, artificial. So one has to live according to, the principle of these Atmanirbhar farms, self-sufficient farms, is that eat what you produce and produce what you eat. Don't eat what you don't produce from somewhere else. And produce what you eat. What you want to eat, produce it. Don't, well, you got it. You got the point. Produce what you eat what you produce. So that should be the principle. Adjust your diet. Even fruits. Now we eat all sorts of fruits, but fruit should be seasonal. What is in season? Have that. Or now they'll preserve it for some time so that we can have the same fruit in another place, another time. That will cause a problem. Anyway, that's the answer to your question. Yeah, that's what they have to do. Not that everyone should have rice. What's the suited for that climate, that body can do. Yeah.
Like some people say that in like northern Europe, that there are some countries
Yes.
where it's not possible to plant anything, like vegetation is not possible at all. So they are forced to eat meat to maintain their bodies. Otherwise, they'll become completely thin because they can't eat just sustain on grains. So, like, is it a fact? Or
Yeah, it's a fact. There are some places in this world you just cannot live a human life.
Russia.
Yeah, some parts of Siberia, desert, you cannot live a human life. You can't take bath in a desert. What will you do? You're wasting water. We need water. How can you take a bath? Even there's some ways of worship and purification involving sand. There's no water, then you can take sand. It's purifying to some extent. You know, the Panchabhuta, all purifying. These places are punishments. And actually they're not fit for human habitation. They're punishments. And people actually, like, if you want to set a proper human society, you cannot do it there. Just go. Because we're talking about farm communities. Some places cannot do farm community in the Eskimo with the igloo. You cannot do farm community there. It's a punishment. Some people are destined to suffer. Devotees go around and give knowledge, but these societies and farms, etc., can be. They have to be certain environments. You need sun, you need all these things. They have to eat those things, it's a punishment. There it says in chapter 16, that Mura janmani mama prapyeva tato adhamam tato yanti adhamam gatim. That these people who are inimical to me, I put them in lower and lower species of life. Then the purport Prabhupada writes, hunters in the jungle, who live in the jungle and eat meat and shoot their arrows. This is one of such lower statuses. So these are punishments. Krishna says, I put them in demonic species of human. It's meant for humans, Bhagavad Gita. So that's the situation. And but one hits Gyan and that, okay, I have to practice Krishna consciousness, then you have to adjust your living, somewhere like in the North Pole, how will you chant Gayatri in Sandhya time? When 6 months a day there's light, 6 months a day there's darkness. Can't do anything. When will you do Mangal Arati? When is Brahma Muhurta? 6 months of darkness, 6 months of light. Yeah, so they have to seek up human habitation and then be able to practice dharma. Most suitable is India, but of course not that everyone comes here. We have to preach wherever we are. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.